Greetings, my name is Rudimentar Rob. Welcome back to my Valheim Hardcore series. Today we're starting our first episode of the solo aspect of it, I guess. I did start the actual series proper in a live stream last weekend. Oladino was very kind to join me in that, and she sort of didn't fare too well. Actually, neither of us fared that well in terms of our survival aspects of the game, but that was pretty much to be expected. That was the first session I'd had in Valheim in about 6 months, so I was more than a little rusty, and Oladino doesn't really actively play Valheim regularly at the moment, and she was a bit rusty as well. But that said, though, we did manage to confirm the relevant mechanics of our settings, and I did have a bit of a short zap through our settings at the start of this video. Essentially, the death penalty is set at the maximum, and what that entails is when you die, all of your gear goes kaputski, so you essentially don't leave a gravestone at all. Like, your gravestone drops and then it gets destroyed instantly. So dying in this game means losing everything on you. So gear, equipped gear, potions, food, stuff you picked up, doesn't matter. It's all gone. So when you respawn, your inventory is as clear as it is when you first arrive in your save game. And incidentally, so is all of your skills. Your skills reset to 0 as well. So we have a very high death penalty here, hence the hardcore aspect of this playthrough. Now, I did toy with the idea of perhaps doing a what's the word? Like a one life kind of aspect of this, and I thought, no, live stream notwithstanding, I would get to a point and I'd just do something stupid, or I'd get unlucky and I'd end up dying, and that'd be the end of the series. And where's the fun in that? So we've got this high death penalty here to better motivate us to, well, not die. So that's pretty much the goal here, is to not die, because dying is expensive. The equipment's probably not going to be too bad in terms of dying, but having to regrind skills up is the thing that is just going to be the absolute worst. So, with all of that out of the way, we are firmly getting into the action here. We're having a bit of a base tour just to familiarise. If you didn't watch the live stream, this is pretty much your walkthrough of what the base looks like at the moment. It's not even half finished at this stage. I've got a lot more to do in terms of gathering stone and wood to get a more permanent base up and running. During the live stream, I just settled for raising an earthen wall around on 4 sides of it. I've made it tall enough that we shouldn't get anything wandering inside, and the workbench in the middle with the upgrades it has actually covers the full area that we have annexed here. But I also placed a couple of torches down just to extend the no spawn area for the base, to make us spawn safe inside the wall. We did a little bit of work at the start of the episode just to extend like an earthen wall out into the water, just to give us a dock when it comes time. By the time I did that, I sort of had an introspective look at myself, and I thought, geez, that was a bit of a waste of effort really, because we're not going to be able to have anything that I would call a boat until we get to the Bronze era. So yeah, a little bit early in the piece to get that up and running, but yeah, whatever, it's done now. So we're getting ourselves sorted here. We did make ourselves some leather pants with the materials that we gathered during the live stream, but that was pretty much the end of it. We ended up running out of some of the leather to be able to make any more than just the leather pants. So that's why we're wearing pants, and I got to say that's a pretty big upgrade over what I managed to wear during the live stream, which was pretty much nothing because we just died a lot. So we've got our pants, we've got a bow, we've got some arrows. It's time to get out here and actually, start gathering and getting some useful materials to expand on our equipment and eventually work towards getting some upgrades. Now, we're going to be doing this in, well, I'm aiming for time efficiency here, but not at the expense of risk. There's going to be a lot of risk management getting through in this playthrough. I mean, at the moment, if I die, I lose a pair of pants and a bow, and I think we managed to do that at least once during the live stream. Obviously, I don't want to be doing it all the time, but if I'm going to die at this level, is preferable to, say, getting to Mistlands and dying there and having to basically grind all my skills back up to that level again. So, yeah, for the next few, episodes here or there, there's going to be a lot of getting very familiar with, just getting into the right mindset to, think ahead a little bit more than I normally would to try and mitigate the chances that I'm going to run into something that I'm really not equipped to deal with. So, with all of that initial spiel out of the way, I'm going to say let's resume the action here. We're nice and early in the morning. It's out in the meadows, and look how fantastically pretty everything is. Pretty. Oh yes, discussing other settings, we have a higher loot setting, so I've got it on 2, and the default would normally be 1, so you pick up an item that's like a rock, you get 1 rock. But on this setting, when I get loot from critters and I pick things up off the ground, I do get double what I normally would. But given the nature of this playthrough and the likelihood that reality is I am going to be dying a few times. And given that, particularly as we get through bosses, the gear gets more and more expensive in terms of the time it takes to gather and upgrade a full set. And I'm not a big fan of that. So I conceded to myself that, look, if we're going to be doing this hard and where there is a likelihood that we're probably going to be dying, I mean, honestly, to get through an entire playthrough of Valheim without me dying because of something stupid, I think you've got a higher chance of winning the lottery than me achieving that. So a bit of a reality check. I figured, we need the extra loot, and I mean, I'm only going to be making enough chests to store enough that I for my essential needs. It's not like I'm going to be filling up a boat and making lots of money off it or anything. It's more of a practical thing. It's a bit of more of a time-saving thing from my standpoint, because if I'm dying, I'm going to be investing so much more time in grinding my skills up. I don't want to be spending hours and days of my time going back and regathering the 400 iron that I need to remake a set or two of the iron armor or whatever. So I want to make sure that look, I'm going to be gathering the first set of gear a bit quicker. The more important thing is that it doesn't take me a lifetime to get replacement gear if I need to. And that's the key and important takeaway on this one. In terms of other settings, I've got fire hazard turned on, so fires can start in any of the biomes. We saw a bit of that during the live stream. When you put a campfire down in the grass, it does spit out little sparks every now and again and gradually burns the grass around it to create a clear area. I also, through a not quite getting the settings right kind of situation, made just initially a shelter for us to be sleeping in overnight, and the campfire was quite close to it, and that after that I realised that the settings weren't right. I reloaded, I turned the fire thing on, and we loaded back in. I didn't really think much of it, and then we came back to our hut and it had several holes burnt in it. So the setting is definitely working, and I'm looking forward to some unfortunate happenings as time goes on, but until that happens, it's probably not going to be anything that's going to impact my gameplay at this stage. The Surtling raid is the one that I'm most concerned about. That one is going to be pretty scary. I'll go more into that when we actually get to that stage. That's something we're not going to have to think about until we start looking at going into the swamp. So many episodes from now. In terms of other settings, this is a map visible but no portals run through. So I have the map available at all times, as you normally do on your default setting. However, portals do nothing in this save game. It's not that here I am promising to never use portals. Oh no, the map setting will not have portals be able to do anything. Now, I'm not sure if that actually even removes them from the build menu, or whether they are there and I can still build them, it's just they won't connect. They won't do anything. I will do a little experiment once we've got the materials to be able to build a portal. I'll build 2 and just see what happens, and I'll go through that in an episode when I get the opportunity. But for the moment, we're going to have 0 portals, and that, I mean, for the foreseeable future, that isn't going to be anything more than a mild inconvenience until we have to go to Ashlands. And yeah, I'm having some reservations about that, but look, this is going to be as much of an exploration on this playthrough as every other playthrough I have. It's just this time we have a few little quirks we're going to have to grow to live with, and you'll be along for the ride. So any little learnings, any little misadventures, as you know, you're going to see it in my videos. Anyway, we're pushing on. We're killing more deers, more boars, collecting berries, doing all of that lovely stuff that we do in the meadows to make sure that we've got the food and the gear that we need to progress. It's starting to get a bit later in the day. I think we're about midday at this stage. I'm having a bit more of a look around, and pretty soon I'm going to realise I've come about as far as I'm going to get to in this day. I don't want to camp out elsewhere, probably motivated by some of the mishaps that occurred with some attempts to camp out at other locations during the live stream. Yeah, anyway, there was a lot of hilarity that ensued with the live stream, so if you haven't watched it already and you want to give it a look, I wouldn't say no to that. If you haven't seen it, and you're not kind of wanting to watch the whole thing, I mean, it is 3.5 hours, honestly. I don't blame you if you don't want to watch it. I'm trying to recover the basics of what we had in that live stream in this episode, just so that you've got the option of still knowing what's going on without having to go back and review, the whole 3 hours of footage. So there you go. It is a pretty nice map. Oh, that reminds me. Anyone who's a bit curious, and again, I would like you to not put any information in the comments once about, because there's ways of loading up the map seeds to see where everything is. I've not done that for this map, so I don't know where anything is, so all of it's going to be new and fresh for me, and I want to keep it that way. But the seed I chose to use for this run through, I was trying to use Rudimentary, except apparently it won't take quite that many characters. So we ended up with Rudimentar with a capital R and lowercase other words. So it's rudimentary without the Y. So that is the seed that we've used for this map. I don't know what that's going to do for availability of things. I've never tried doing something like that before. Every time I've sort of created maps, I've just used more or less the seed that's sort of pre-populated in there. And that's usually worked out all right for me in the past. So I'm very curious as to whether, just using a word, so to speak, as a seed is going to influence anything in a way that would be, would make it a bit harder for my run through. I would say probably not, but we're going to find out in due time. In terms of any other settings that we need to know about, not much really. The combat difficulty, it's not on the highest setting. It's on the one setting in between normal and the hardest setting. Essentially, all that does is it makes me be able to hit a little bit harder. It makes the mobs able to hit a little bit harder. But more importantly, it improves the likelihood that we're going to encounter 1 and 2 star variants of critters at basically any time. So instead of just only finding them at night, we have a chance of finding them during the day as well. So, and we did experience a bit of that during the live stream. We had a few 1-star piggies, a few 1-star grey dwarves. We had our own experiences with that. So there, actually, and a 1-star skeleton too. Now I think about it, Oladino had a one-on-one chat with a 1-star skeleton and didn't really like it very much. Skeletons aren't very talkative, and he wasn't that interested in a chat. He just wanted to, be as scary as possible. So yeah, anyway. So combat's not going to be as easy as my previous run-throughs. Mind you, I usually use normal settings, but it's going to be one notch harder than that for this playthrough. So I haven't really... it's been close to a year since I was playing at this sort of level of gear in Valheim when I started my previous series. So it's a bit hard to actively compare what I've got going on at the moment versus then. But it does feel like things are, hitting a little bit harder. Because there was 1 or 2 deaths there that did take me by surprise a little bit. It was a situation where I thought, if I'm careful, I'll kind of get out of this situation with admittedly very low health. But yeah, it came out the other way. I ended up dying a couple of times. So it's definitely a little bit harder, but I couldn't really say I was at 10% harder or something like that. I'm gonna need to get further on in the game where I have a better memory of the sorts of things that we should be expecting in terms of damage. So that might come about with fighting trolls. It might just come about much later when we're getting into the swamp where we have droggers and they hit like a freight train definitely not looking forward to them. But anyway, in terms of my own combat tactics, I'm definitely not gonna not use a bow. I think given the other settings that I'm using and my standard sort of play style, I think the bow is something I'm just not willing to give up at this point. So we're going to definitely be using a bow, pretty much all of the time. I'm toying with the idea of not going down like a heavy tank kind of road. So, going with full heavy armor, for example, with a tower shield. There's massive advantages in terms of defenses with that, but there are some pretty horrific downsides as well. And given we're likely to be encountering 1 and 2 star opponents more regularly in this playthrough, I'm actually a bit concerned I need to focus a bit more on mobility. So I'm not locked in yet with this, but I'm actually contemplating not bothering with heavy armor. Like, I'll make some, but it won't be my default armor. Like, I will explore like completely in leather armor, and then only reverting to heavy armor where I see situations where I know the heavy armor is going to be the better option. So, for example, going through crypts in the swamp, pretty hard to go past, fully upgraded bronze gear or some iron gear. Whereas, exploring an area, getting around in troll armor or root armor has some much bigger advantages because I move around faster, I can run and cover more distance. And in the case of the troll armor, I get a bonus on my sneaky, stealthy abilities, which makes it easier to avoid things. So I think that's kind of the playstyle I'm going to work to, but I'm sure that aspect will evolve over time. So anytime I make a little change away from that sort of template, I'll keep you guys updated. Anyway, I think that pretty much covers all of the kinds of ins and outs of the settings that we're using for this playthrough. And it's really pretty much a matter of me just getting sorted, getting some better gear sorted out, and then just getting on with it. And I'm not going to be... I will say I'm not going to be as verbose, I guess, with my, this is how you do this, this is how you do that. I did quite a lot of that with my first series. This one is going to be a lot more focused on the things to expect with doing this type of run through, the learning that I'm doing, the things that I'm experiencing that I haven't experienced before, and all of the challenges that I come across that come out of that. So I think with that, I'm going to be doing potentially a lot more offline play, but I'm going to include you guys on a regular basis with what's going on with all of the important stuff, as well as the upgrades, the exploration, all of those things that are nice to watch, as opposed to the I'm just going to run back and forth trying to grind up my run skill. I don't think that's entertaining for anyone. I know it isn't entertaining for me, so I'll spare you guys the pain and suffering, and I'll just I'll do that in silence, but I'll give you a bit of a report anytime I'm doing it. Anyhow, we've done our bit of gathering exercise. It's come on evening now, and I'm making sure, at least for until I've got a decent set of gear going, I'm making sure that I'm not out at night. Because night, as we've previously established, already has makes a higher chance of encountering 1 and 2 star monsters, not the least of which also can include the potential for skeletons spawning and things like that. So for the foreseeable future, I am definitely going to be getting making short runs out, killing as much as I can, gather as much as I can, and then coming back here to camp out the night, make upgrades, and do all that other stuff. So speaking of making upgrades, we're upgrading our flint axe. We're making leather pants and a tunic, so we'll have a full set of level 1 leather gear, and that alone is going to make a sizable difference against the standard meadows fare. So probably boars, and if we get a bit too close to Black Forest, it gives us a fighting chance against some of the more basic grey dwarves. I still don't want to run into a shaman or a brute at this stage, but a regular grey dwarf, while I'm wearing this armour and I've got a bow, an axe and a shield, I'm in with a pretty good shot at handling a normal one or a 1-star, whereas before with no armour, I mean, the regular ones were just killing me in one hit if I didn't have much in the way of food. So we're already looking a lot better than we were. And yeah, we're just going to keep working on that sort of improvement curve at this stage. We've got and getting back on the mobility thing, because I'm not going to bother with tower shields for now. I do still want to have a buckler there in case I come across a skeleton, because I'm going to need the parry bonus to not get knocked off balance. So that's why we have the little round shield. I toyed with the idea of some of the other equipment options that I might want to go with, but for now I just want to get a recipe that's going to work. And speaking of recipes that work, we've reached the recipe as in the end of the episode. So if you've enjoyed it, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and to consider subscribing if you're not already subscribed. Until next time, my name is Rudimentary Rob. Thank you very much for watching, and make sure you have yourself an absolutely fantastic day.